Please welcome to the stage, Jude Treder Wolff!
My first impression of my boss, Barry, is that he looks like a linebacker in a lab coat. He's about 5'6", built like a tank, but he has the warmth and the personality of a John Candy in a lab coat. And he hires me for my first professional job to be a creative arts therapist on a psych unit in a hospital in New Jersey. And I am so grateful because it's 1982 and jobs in healthcare and the arts are just disappearing. And I know that I'm really lucky to get one of them. And he is so excited for me to meet the staff and talks me up and how happy he is to have music and art on the unit. I meet the chief of psychiatry, Dr. Simon, who is a tall, skinny, very aloof, almost the opposite of Barry, kind of a Clive Owen in a lab coat kind of guy, gives me a little tip of his hat. And then Barry gives me a key to his office. And he says, now look, this is the Motel 6 of offices. But he is really proud of it. And he says, you're going to need some space for your supplies. And you need some privacy up here. And I'm really happy to share this little office with you. So I am off to a really great start. So every morning, I zoom in there, and I feel this backpack with art supplies and notebooks and pens and music sheets and grab my guitar and go out to do this very intense day of work with patients on the psych unit. And Barry will be sitting there smoking, and he might say, they're looking to cut the budget again. Help me come up with an argument so they don't cut psychiatry. Or he might say, you wouldn't believe the meeting I was just at. Heads are going to roll. Or he might say, my wife thinks I'm too hard on my stepson. What do you think? And everybody on the unit loves him, and I know that he could be talking to any of those people, so I love that he wants to confide in me, and I feel special, and we're getting closer. So about a month into the job, he says, look, how about if you come out, meet my wife and my stepson, bring your guitar, and if you and the kid hit it off, you can teach him guitar privately. I play guitar too. This way he and I would have something in common. But I can't teach him because all we do is fight. So the following Thursday night, I drive up to the woods in the suburban woods of Montclair, New Jersey. It's about 7:30 at night, an autumn night, and I arrive. And Barry meets me at the door, and he's holding a guitar. And he's playing the guitar, and he's doing these amazing Spanish guitar riffs up and down the neck, just staring at me. And he backs up, and I follow him into the living room, and he continues playing this guitar, and I see a fire in the fireplace, and a bottle of wine on the table, and 2 glasses, and 2 settings, and the smell of lasagnas wafting through the air. And I look at him, and he's still seductively fingering the neck of this guitar. And he says, what do you think? And I say, your wife and your son couldn't make it? And he says, oh, come on. You knew what this was. Come on. They're not going to be back until Sunday, and I gave you a personal day for tomorrow, so we've got 3 full days together. And now my one confusion, anxiety, has now turned to awkwardness because there's not one molecule of my body that is attracted to this guy. So now I also don't want to hurt my boss's feelings. So I say, I don't think that would be good for our working relationship. And then the shadow comes over his eyes. He's still grinning, but now it's a Jack Nicholson Shining kind of grin. And he says, oh, come on. You don't think I hired you right out of your internship because I thought you were the best person for this job. I hired you because of your pretty green eyes. And with that, inside I'm thinking, I must have misunderstood. I must have misunderstood. And I keep saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I have to go. I really have to get up early. I have to go. And I pick up my guitar and I leave. And as I drive away, I see his face framed in the doorway with a look of stone-cold anger. Now, the next morning, I get to work at 7:30 because my plan is to get all of my gear out of that office so I can avoid him for the entire day and the rest of my life. And of course, so I have my art supplies, my guitar, and I open the door, and Barry's standing on the other side. And I panic, and my heart is pounding, and my face gets hot, and he says, "You're no fun at all. You're a workaholic." And I don't know what to say. I'm paralyzed, and I look down, and I mumble something like, I have to go set up the group, and I step into the doorway, and as I do, he steps into the doorway, so the entire bulk of his linebacker body is pressed up against every inch of my body, and as I squeeze past him, I'm thinking, I'm going to spend every day for the rest of the time that I work here trying to avoid moments like this. So every morning I get used to this feeling of dread and anxiety as I turn the key to go to this office, because I know what's on the other side every day after this is an icy hostility. Sometimes he's playing my guitar, and I need it for group, and I meekly and weakly say, I need my guitar, excuse me, to do my job. And he just ignores me like I'm not even there. Sometimes I'm getting my supplies, and he'll just come up right behind me, press his body up right behind me. And so I have to navigate getting around him, and then he'll jump into the doorway, so I have to squeeze past him. But out on the floor with everybody else, he's everybody's favorite guy. And I don't know who I can even talk to about this. I'm dating a guy at the time, and I tell him about it, and he says, well, he didn't rape you. Wow. How bad is this guy anyway? And I'm thinking, well, he didn't. Maybe he doesn't want to assault me. Maybe he just likes making me uncomfortable. And I don't know who is safe to talk to about it, but the one place where I'm open is this psychodrama training group that I'm in, where we use scene setting and role playing and theatrical techniques to explore issues and problems. And in there, I tell them everything, and I keep doing these scenes over and over in there where Barry does one of these, making me terribly uncomfortable and sexually aggressive moves, and I just am paralyzed. I can't speak up. Even in these role plays that are completely fake, I can't speak up. And I say to my group, look, what I need from you guys is to just help me get through this, to stick this out for another 6 months so I can be here a year, and then I can get a better job somewhere. And there's a guy in the group that reminds me of Dr. Simon, and he says, well, that's not gonna work, because you'll need Barry's reference. So what you have to do is you gotta get in with Dr. Simon. That's what you have to do. So I start doing these role plays with this guy as Dr. Simon, and I vent all of what's happened and tell him the whole story. And in one scenario, it's like in Rosemary's Baby, where she goes to the doctor and she tells the doctor everything, and it turns out he's in the coven, and everybody's in on it, and she's completely trapped. And another version of it, Dr. Simon says, this is impossible. Barry would never do something like this. Or I imagine he might say, okay, I believe you, but there's nothing I can do. I don't want to bring negative attention to psychiatry. And as I'm working through this, trying to find some kind of script that I can bring to Dr. Simon and speak up for myself, there's a day when I'm always looking over my shoulder. I always know where Barry is. It's a very Barry-centric life that I have on the unit when other people are around, and I try to keep somebody between us at all times. But one day, I just don't manage to do that. I'm on my way to do a presentation, and he comes up behind me, very stealth. He does one of these stealth moves, and he grabs my butt, and he says, I know a nice piece of ass when I see one. And I'm about to do a presentation, and then for the first time, I feel angry. And I call Dr. Simon and say, I'd like to talk to you. Dr. Simon invites me to his office, which for the first time, I've been working here for 7 months, I find out is in an entirely different part of the hospital. And you know in The Wizard of Oz, there's the black and white Kansas, and there's Oz that is all colorful? Well, the psych unit is Kansas, and where his office is gorgeous, it's palatial, it's spacious. I didn't know this even existed. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, leather couches that smell like new car and entitlement, and a desk that's the size of the Titanic. So he, with this aloof manner, is on the other side of this desk, and I feel even more small and insignificant. And I start by saying, I think Barry wants me to quit, or he wants to fire me. And Dr. Simon says, I hear good things. And I say, okay, well, sometimes I come into the office and he's playing my guitar and he won't give it to me. And as I'm saying this, I'm just falling apart, realizing I feel like a middle schooler ratting out a high school senior to the school principal. And I finally get out, I say, he grabbed my butt and he said, "I know a nice piece of ass when I see one." And Dr. Simon, again, inscrutable, aloof, and he says, "Well, let me look into it." So I leave and I feel defeated. I don't know, I don't believe that anything is going to happen. I can't read his mind. So the next morning, the usual, I get all my gear early in the morning, open the door, there's Barry on the other side of the door. I step into the doorway, he does the usual, jump in the doorway, so I have to squeeze past him, and I look up, and there's Dr. Simon walking down the hall. And the three of us freeze. It's a slow-mo moment. And no one says anything. I continue on to do my job, and Dr. Simon continues into our space, the office. That's a Friday morning. Monday comes, I have the usual dread, the usual Barry-centric, where is he? I gotta keep somebody between him and me, and he's not around. Tuesday comes, he's not around. By Wednesday, I say to one of the nurses, "Is Barry on vacation? Is he sick? Something happened?" And she says, "Oh, you didn't hear? Dr. Simon transferred him. He's been transferred to the ER, the psych ER. He works 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. And what I know is I know where this guy lives, that he has to get up at insane o'clock in the morning to be there at 5 a.m. and do the psych ER rotations. This is a huge demotion for him. He's lost all of his status. Nobody told me about it, but now I know." And I go to the office that we did share, and I sit there and I think, I still feel terrible that I never stood up for myself, that I couldn't find the words, I couldn't find the strength. But I know I've learned a lot. I know that I've wised up that people can be very different people in private and in public. And I never stopped looking over my shoulder ever since then. I really did wise up and try to look behind the mask of people more than I ever did before I met Barry. Now, over the years, this was a long time ago, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of not only women, lots of people that were paralyzed in that same way, trying to deal with a situation and afraid to speak up because they might risk their job or their security or their safety if they said something and upset somebody that was in power that wasn't treating them in the right way. And so it's a struggle, and I know that struggle. And while I'm listening to people work it out, I'm thinking, I get it. Me too.